Good evening, everybody. Congratulations, you've made it to the final talk. Thank you for sticking it out till the bitter end to listen to me, your final speaker of the evening. I hope you're all G'd up on some really blue Science Slam cocktails tonight because, disclaimer, I am also going to need some audience participation at some point. So let it be known that at least I gave you a warning, and I hope that some of you are nice and keen to get up here and give me a hand. So I guess I can start off with the question, well, who am I and what do I do? Well, my name's Kirsty. I'm a PhD student from the University of Glasgow, and I'm a solid-state physicist. Okay, well, what does that mean? Maybe the physicist up the back would appreciate in the darkened corner. Thanks. Well, solid-state physics is the study of rigid matter, or materials. And in particular, it's my job to look at a material which has a very important job to do in the core of a nuclear reactor. Ultimately, so that I can make nuclear power as safe as possible and mitigate against any potential outcomes from anything on the board behind me. So when I talk to a general audience about nuclear power, I'm often met with gasps and groans, and maybe people aren't necessarily, there's quite bad connotations around nuclear power. It's unclean, yeah, it's expensive. What about it's just not that safe? Well, what if I were to tell you that nuclear power is actually the cleanest form of energy that we have at our disposal? Or that once our plant is built, it's actually the cheapest form of energy production that we have? Or that scientists are working every day to make sure that nuclear power is as safe as humanly possible for generations to come? Now, I also can't talk to you about nuclear power without talking to you about the state that we're in right now. Unfortunately, we know the Earth is on a bit of a balance beam. Our energy needs cannot be met with fossil fuels and renewables alone, and it's estimated that we only have about 70 or 80 years of these fossil fuels left. It's not if they'll run out, it's when. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, we have a huge population growth, exponentially, and we have a really big demand for stuff. Everybody wants more stuff, from the newest LG 3D 4G curved Ultra HD LED TV, or the iPhone, the newest one with the hugest blinking screen, just by the way, so that we can ask Siri, should I have a Domino's or a Chippy for my dinner, or who's going to win the Euros? This all takes energy to charge, to run, to make, and we are consuming it at an alarming rate. So nuclear power, it's not understated to say, has to play a role in our energy future. So the sciencey bit, I'm going to hopefully not bore you too much, but hopefully you're familiar with the image on the top. That's rust, and you should see a lot of it around here because it rains a hell of a lot in Glasgow. And rust happens when you get a metal in contact with water. So when it rains, like a park swing set, iron railings, your bike, your car engine, when rust gets on that, things start to not work as well as they used to. Now, not only does rust occur in nature, it occurs in the centre of a nuclear reactor, in the core of a nuclear reactor. And I have a snazzy little picture here of a guy with a really beautiful little paper hat on, examining one of these cores of a nuclear reactor. These rods that you can see here, these lengths, are where the nuclear fuel is put into in a reactor. And these tubes are the material which I study every single day. And it's my job to not just look at these tubes and say, meh, they look like they're not rusted, let's just use them. I want to look at them to scales that we've never looked at before, that we didn't look at in the 60s when we were producing nuclear power plants. I want to look at them on the atomic scale, the smallest building blocks of life. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, let's start off with something that's tangible, something that we can touch, something that we know. We've all got eyes, right? So we can all see stuff, but when we look at things, when I look at this chair here, it's not just a swirling ball of atoms, it's a thing. And that's because our eyes can actually only resolve to about the width of one human hair, a fine human hair. Might be being a little bit ageist here, but hopefully, Dad, I hope you can see that. But, yeah, so good pair of eyes, you can distinguish about the width of a human hair. So we can take that one step further, and we can use a light microscope, like you see on CSI or in the lab or whatever. We put a slide, we have some stuff on it, we put it under, we shine light through it, and we look at it. And just like Bianca talked about earlier, we can see some really cool stuff. We can see cells, we can see bacteria, almost the same Wikipedia search as Bianca, clearly, because we have the same image. Yeah, but the problem with that is that, mind-bogglingly enough, light is actually too big to look at atoms. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where I need an unwitting volunteer. Is anyone willing to come up and... Yeah, okay, come on up. Let's go fast. Thank you. Big round of applause. Thank you. Come up on the... Can you bring... yeah, sorry, I forgot the things. Great. Okay. Yeah. What's your name? Greg. This is Greg, everyone. Everyone, Greg. Round of applause again. Yeah, thanks. Okay. So, Greg, if you could just stand right here. Just right here is fabulous, right in the centre. Just face everyone. Great. You're doing good. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to your childhood a little bit, and please tell me if anyone doesn't remember the slinky. I feel old. Okay, so if Greg can just hold one end of that. Great. So we're going to make a light wave. You just keep that still. This is a light wave. And I'm going to probe Greg with my light. Just stay still, Greg. Just don't move. Put that closer to your body. Yeah, okay, go. Just stay still. You're doing really good. Okay, this is my light. Greg is my atom. I want to see Greg. My light is doing a pretty crap job at telling me what Greg's made up of. It can tell me maybe how wide his body is, maybe how tall he is, but not much else. So we need to do one step further. Sorry, Greg. Oh, you might need to step out of that. No, we're good. Okay. So we're going to move to something which is smaller than Greg. We all know that atoms make up everything, but it wasn't until the 60s that somebody burst one open and a whole bunch of crap came out. So we know there's other stuff inside them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to probe Greg. Click. Technical difficulties? Yeah, great. With an electron. Okay, let's probe Greg. You might want to step back a wee bit, please, Greg. Just face me. It's fab. Okay, I'm going to probe Greg with my electrons. Oh, I think I've overfilled this. Okay, just stay still, Greg. Be brave. Okay, so I'm going to probe Greg with my electrons. These are electrons. And what happens is, because my electrons are so little, they can tell me a lot more information about when they hit Greg. Like, maybe how many hairs he has, maybe if he's got a filling in his teeth, if he's got a freckle on his, I don't know. I don't really want to go any further than that. If Greg's got freckles, the electrons can tell me this. Thanks, Greg. I think this is probably some form of bullying. I'll buy you a pint later on. So that means that I can now see atoms. I can probe them, I can see them, I can physically see. You can go sit down, Greg. Thanks very much. Round of applause to Greg. Thanks. Thanks, Greg. So now I can probe atoms, and I can see them. Okay, clearly, not even the physicists sound impressed up the back there, not even a woo! Okay, so in order for me to give you some sort of idea about the size of an atom, it's useless for me to tell you that it's 0.0000001 meters big. Isn't it? Nobody knows what that is, right? This is where we need entire audience participation, please, if you're not too exhausted by now. So everybody knows what a meter is. So can we put their hands up? Tell me roughly about what a meter is. The size of a meter stick. Yeah, we're all good. Okay, if I divide that by 10, very impressed. That's about the width of a grapefruit, maybe? It's a very specific fruit. Okay, just came to my head there. I was going to say a football, but I realised that wasn't big enough. Okay, and then if we divide that by 10 again, we get a centimetre. So, okay, it's about the width of a human fingernail, kind of tangible. We kind of know what's going on there. Okay, so if we divide that by 10 again, we get to the width of the head of a pin, which is about 1 millimetre. If we then divide this length scale by 10 and by 10 again, we get to about the width of a human red blood cell, which is conveniently on the head of a pin. It's about 10 microns. So, okay, we're maybe getting into the realms of ridiculous. It'd be really cool if we could image those. But if we divide by 10, divide by 10, divide by 10, and divide by 10 again, that gets us to the scale of human DNA. And that's really neat. But that's not even where we need to go. We need to divide by 10, and then divide by 10, and then we get our atom, which is 0.000000001 meters wide. We can image these things that you're writing on. Hopefully you're writing that I should come first in that. That you're sitting on, that you're breathing, the thing that you're breathing, the things that make up your kids' bogies, the makes up your cat hair, whatever you're into. These things are everywhere and we can look at them. And I'm going to show you the most amazing image you have ever seen in your entire lives. And here it is. Click. There we go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is atoms. Those dots there, they're atoms. We can see them. We can see what things are made up of physically. We can take a thing and we can look at it. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means that if I have my material and I have it under conditions that it would experience in a reactor, high pressures and high temperatures, and then I take another piece of my material and I put it into conditions where, God forbid, a nuclear disaster scenario where you would have higher pressure and higher temperatures, I can image my atoms here also. And if I can image my atoms in these scenarios, I can not only look at them, I can see how they move. And if I can see how atoms move, I can go some way to stopping this rust forming on these integral parts of my nuclear reactor. I can stop them corroding. I can extend their lifetime. And hopefully what that means is that my generation will actually have a real tangible hold on our energy future, which is in the balance right now. And hopefully what that means is that my kids, your kids, your kids' kids, your kids' 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 kids, for generations to come, will have a safe and sustainable energy source for the future. Thanks for listening.